Welcome. NSG 321, Study Section 2. Family with Special Needs. Introduction. In this study section, we will explain the idea of child abuse and child neglect. We will also describe the risk factors for community health nurse as well as the types of child abuse. Finally, we will discuss the various types of implication of child abuse or child neglect to community health nurses. Learning outcome. When you have studied this section, you should be able to differentiate between child abuse and child neglect with definitions. List and explain risk factors associated with child abuse and neglect. List and explain types of child abuse. Discuss the implication of child abuse or neglect to community health nurse. 1. The concept of child abuse. Have you ever seen a child being abused? So many people trying to confuse the word insult with abuse. In your own words, describe what you understand by child abuse. Provide your answer in the space provided below. In defining child abuse, note that the underlying keywords, child abuse is defined as a physical or mental injury, child abuse or exploitation, negligent treatment or maltreatment of a child by somebody who is responsible for the child's health and welfare. There are basically 4 types: physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. Each year, approximately 160,000 children are severely abused, 3 million are abused and or neglected, and 1,002,000 die as a result of the assault by the caretaker. Under 5s are mostly abused, followed by under 1. Children are often referred to as innocent. They are vulnerable by the virtue of their age, size, sex, basic dependence on adults, and lack of power. Definitions of what constitutes child abuse differ by culture, socio-economic groups, and neighborhoods. This is largely because children are regarded to as their own parents' property, and so the community has been so reluctant to interfere in matters concerning child rearing. Most child abuse often go unnoticed. However, as a nurse working with the family, you should be able to identify any form of child abuse. The next session discusses how a nurse can carry out assessment of child abuse within the family. Nursing assessment. As community health nurse who works with the family or individuals, you should be in a position to recognize abuses and to advocate for the child. Advocacy is difficult if the nurse cannot maintain the objectivity necessary for obtaining a history. This is because history taking is an important aspect of advocacy. Also, differentiating between child abuse and child discipline may pose a challenge too. Any suspicious finding warrants a thorough history and a complete physical assessment to provide for child safety. One form of child abuse is child neglect. What does it mean to the family, the community, and the community health nurse? 2. Child neglect. This is when the family fails to provide for the child's basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, supervision, education, emotional affection and stimulation, and health care. It is the most frequently reported form of child maltreatment. A thorough history taking and assessment is critical as well. Depending on the particular manifestation of neglect, the community health nurse should assess what type of education and support the family might need to improve the care of the child. If the family does not have enough resources to provide for basic needs, the nurse can offer referral to social service agencies that can assist. It is also necessary to explore the parent-child route of bringing, because if they too were neglected then, it may just be natural to parent in the way they know. An important nursing intervention is to teach specific skills for increased positive parent-child interactions, improving problem-solving ability, enhancing personal hygiene and nutritional skills. Family therapy may be another useful adjunct if the family is amenable. Neglect may be a precursor to other types of abuse, might exist in tandem with other types of abuses or as a singular form of abuse. Though neglect is less externally traumatic than other forms of child abuse, the long-term sequelae and potential for adult dysfunction are serious. Point to be considered by the nurse. 1. Is clothing too large, too small, or inappropriate for child developmental stage? 2. Is the child dressing himself, herself, without any adult supervision? 3. Do the parents have unrealistic expectations of the child's ability to cope with environmental realities, e.g. cold weather? 4. Is either parent abusing substances and thus depleting the family income? Having all this at the back of our minds, let us ask ourselves a question: what leads to child abuse? The next section highlights some of factors that could warrant child abuse. 3. Risk factors for child abuse. The following are some of the risk factors for child abuse. 1. Unplanned or unwanted pregnancy. 2. Teenage pregnancy. 3. Single parenthood. 4. Closely spaced children. 5. Substance abuse. 6. Social isolation. 7. Poor support system. 8. Limited knowledge of child development. 9. Previous reports to Child Protective Services. 10. Previous history of child abuse. 11. Partner violence. 12. Children with disability or developmental challenges. All the above listed factors may lead to child abuse in different forms. To understand this, let us look at different types of child abuse. 4. Types of child abuse. There are many forms of child abuse. Some of them are discussed below. 1. Physical abuse. Obvious signs are seen like bruises. Normal childhood bruising is common over bony prominence, whereas bruising of soft tissues, lower back, buttocks, abdomen, under the armpit or shoulder where the child baby was grabbed, multiple sites at different stages of healing is suggestive of abuse. Burns, cigarette burns, hot iron, curling comb, immersion of arms and legs in hot water, fractures, abdominal injury, though may not have external signs. 2. Sexual abuse. This may or may not involve force or coercion, depending on the age of the child. 3. Emotional abuse. These are verbal or behavioral action diminishing the self-worth or self-esteem of the child. It includes name-calling, put down, isolating, stigmatizing, humiliating, or ignoring the child. Community health nursing should help to explore which is applicable and assist parents to make a conscious effort to resolve this. How can a community health nurse prevent some of these abuses? For us to answer this question, we will describe ways a community health nurse can prevent child abuse in the next section. 5. Roles of community health nurse. The following are some of the roles a community health nurse can play to mitigate against child abuse. 1. Primary prevention. These include community mitigation laws or policies against violence, public health education, strong community sanctions, decreased vulnerability to violence, abuse through decent dressing, security consciousness within and outside the home, health education, child health education, adolescent education, self-defense skills, etc. Family cohesion, assessment of risk factors already explored. 2. Secondary prevention. It entails early identification or prompt management. This includes family recreation period to ventilate abusive risk factors, effective communication with abusive families, early identification of signs and symptoms of abuse, identification of stressors, removal of clients away from stressor or eliminating the stressor, etc. 3. Tertiary prevention. It is a rehabilitation and prevention of recurrence. It includes referral to appropriate community agencies, role modeling, support groups, public policies, etc. Now we've come to the end of study section 2. Thanks for listening.